Hey everyone! In this video we're going to go through some essential Excel data management steps using two datasets, CDC WONDER Natality data and the 2022 Social Vulnerability Index. These two datasets use FIPS codes as their unique identifiers. FIPS stands for Federal Information Processing Standards, and every U.S. county has a unique 5-digit code. Some of these codes start with a 0, and that's where Excel tends to cause trouble, because Excel drops leading zeros automatically. So one of the first skills we'll practice today is how to preserve those codes. The focus of this video isn't analysis yet. Instead, we're going to cover the data management steps you'll use all the time, such as fixing FIPS codes, creating structured tables in Excel, filtering and sorting tables, and merging datasets using VLOOKUP. These are core skills you'll rely on in almost any epidemiologic or public health analysis. We'll start by downloading the 2022 SVI dataset. Go to the CDC SVI website, open Data and Documentation, and download the county-level CSV for 2022. On the same page you'll find the SVI documentation. This file explains how the SVI themes are constructed. We'll refer back to it in a moment. Now let's open the CSV file we've downloaded directly into Excel by importing it through Excel's Get Data tool. This prevents Excel from dropping leading zeros, which is important because FIPS codes must remain as 5-digit. So, in a new blank Excel workbook, go to Data. Then click on Get Data. Select from File and then from Text, CSV. Select the SVI file you downloaded. Using this option allows us to set the FIPS column to text before Excel makes any changes. That ensures all FIPS codes stay as 5-digit strings, even when they start with a 0, which is something Excel would normally strip away automatically. In the Power Query window, find the column labeled FIPS. Excel may try to set it as whole number. We want to change that before loading the data. So we'll select the FIPS column, go up to the toolbar, and change the data type from whole number to text. This ensures Excel keeps all 5 digits, including leading zeros, which is essential for merging county-level datasets correctly. Once the FIPS column is set to text, click Close and Load. Once the file loads, take a moment to scroll through it and get familiar with the structure. The SVI data dictionary is really helpful here. Since we're eventually going to merge this dataset with Natality data using VLOOKUP, we want to make sure the FIPS column is the very first column in the sheet. VLOOKUP reads left to right, so the lookup value must be in the leftmost column of the table you're referencing. If FIPS isn't already the first column, we'll just cut it and move it to the far left. Don't forget to save the file. To make things easier later, I'm going to highlight the columns we'll eventually merge: FIPS, themes 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm also going to add a row of numbers above the headers. This helps when we use VLOOKUP because the formula works off the column index. With the columns numbered, it's easy to see which one we need without scrolling around. I'm also going to hide the columns we won't be using in this example. This keeps the workspace cleaner and makes it easier to focus on the variables we're merging. Next, let's download our outcome data from CDC WONDER. We'll be using county-level Natality data for 2022. In the CDC WONDER website, we'll head to the Natality dataset. When the data use agreement pops up, click I agree. At the top of the request form, set the table layout first, select County for primary group. This will give us one row per county. Make sure to assign a name to your file. As we scroll down, you'll notice that WONDER gives us a long list of filters, and they're organized into different groups. Each of these sections contains multiple options you can use to shape your query depending on your research question. Select time period and choose 2022. Under infant characteristics, select single births, and under gestational age, choose all categories between 20 and 36 weeks. That's the definition we'll use for preterm births. Click Send. Then click Export in Excel file. Remember that WONDER exports the data exactly as you see it on the screen, so anytime you design a query, think ahead about how you want the data to look in Excel. Now that we have the Natality file, let's open it in Excel. Excel will probably ask if we want to trust the source. Go ahead and click Yes, open anyway. Next, you may see a prompt asking if you want to convert the file or remove leading zeros. Click Don't Convert. We want to keep those leading zeros because they're part of the 5-digit FIPS code. What I usually do next is create a new sheet so we can keep things organized. I'll rename the original sheet, the one we just downloaded, to raw data. That way we always have the untouched version stored in the file. On this new sheet, I'm going to pull over only the fields we need for this example, the FIPS code and the number of preterm births. We want to keep this working sheet lean and focused so we avoid mistakes later when we merge it with the SVI dataset. Next, let's turn this clean sheet into a table so it's easier to work with. Click anywhere inside your data, go to the Insert menu, and choose Table. Make sure the option that says Table has headers is checked, since we already named our columns. Now we're ready to bring the SVI variables into this dataset. The function we'll use is VLOOKUP. This formula allows us to pull information from the SVI file by matching the FIPS code, which is why we placed FIPS in the first column. Here's what the structure of the VLOOKUP will look like when we write it out. We tell Excel what value we want to match, which table to look in, which column number to pull from, and we tell it to make an exact match. When we press Enter, Excel will bring in the SVI theme score for each county based on the FIPS code. Remember the row of numbers we added at the top of the SVI file? Those numbers represent the position of each column in the SVI sheet. VLOOKUP works by matching a value, like a FIPS code, and then returning information from a specific column number. So instead of having to count across the sheet manually while we write the formula, we can simply look at the number row and use that as the column index. We'll end it with the word false. That tells Excel to return an exact match for the FIPS code instead of guessing or rounding to the closest value. Since FIPS codes are unique identifiers, we always want an exact match. We'll repeat this same process for the other SVI themes. The formula stays exactly the same, and the only thing we change is the column number that tells Excel which variable to pull. You can type each formula manually if you prefer, or you can copy and paste the first VLOOKUP and adjust the column number in the pasted version. Either approach works, as long as the correct column index is used for each SVI theme. A quick tip here. You can double-click the little square in the lower right corner of the cell, or drag it down, and Excel will fill the formula for the entire column automatically. Let's do a little troubleshooting. You might have noticed that some of the values came back as not available, NA. This usually happens when the FIPS codes in the two datasets don't match. Maybe one is stored as text and the other as a number. Since VLOOKUP relies on an exact match, any mismatch in formatting can cause a not available result. What I'm doing here is copying the FIPS code exactly as it appears in the SVI dataset and pasting it into the births dataset. This is just to show you that when the formatting matches, the VLOOKUP works. The NA disappears and the theme value comes back. So this confirms that the issue isn't the data itself, it's the difference between FIPS stored as text versus FIPS stored as a number. A quick way to fix this formatting problem is to use Excel's Text to Columns tool. Go to the Data tab and click Text to Columns. Choose Delimited, and in the next step make sure all the delimiter boxes are unchecked so Excel doesn't split or rearrange anything. In the final step, change the column format to text. Before finishing, make sure the destination cell is the same as the original column so Excel overwrites the values correctly. Click Finish, and now the whole FIPS column is converted to text, which should fix any lookup issues. And there you have it. We'll repeat the same steps for the other FIPS values that aren't matching, and that should clean up the rest of the NA results. Now, if you're still seeing NA results even after converting the FIPS column, that usually means the county isn't recorded in the SVI dataset. We can verify this by filtering the SVI table and checking whether that FIPS code appears there. If it doesn't, then the value truly isn't available. At that point, we just manage it like any other missing data, either remove those rows or leave them coded as missing, depending on the needs of your study design. Once we're happy with the VLOOKUP results, we'll create a new sheet with plain data. That means copying the columns with formulas and pasting them as values only. This is important because it locks in the numbers and prevents formulas from breaking later on. Before we wrap up, let's turn this cleaned dataset into a table. Click anywhere inside the data, go to the Insert menu, and choose Table. Now we can easily sort the variables, filter out the NA values, and quickly check which counties have complete information. And this is exactly why clean and organized data matters. When you eventually load this dataset into SAS, R, Stata, or any other statistical program, having consistent formats, matching identifiers, and clearly labeled columns saves you a lot of time. That's all for today. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found this walkthrough useful.